All right. Thank you, Ken. We have a little changer here. It should work.
Well, that does it too.
Yeah, so you do that.
The middle one.
This one goes forward.
Okay.
And then your laser pointer.
Okay. Very good.
But if you're going to walk away, I need to give you a...
No, I'll stay here. Well, it's been a long time. I actually have attended COS meetings, but to tell you how long it's been, the last one I was at, J. Lawton Smith was at also. I'd like to share with you some of my experiences today. I appreciate David's reference to telling stories. A lot of this will be my and my family's experience over the last several years. There are a lot of pictures of me in here, which I don't actually like too much, but I really want to convey the story to you. And I also want, at the beginning, to say I want this to be glorifying to the Lord, because it is He working in us. I don't really want your praise. I want the praise to go to Him and just to see the things that He has done. So I'm going to be talking about teaching ophthalmology abroad, an alternative approach to medical missions. Now, I know some of you have done this, so I'm not saying this is a radically new idea, but I think it's underutilized, and there are so many opportunities. I want you to become more aware of it. Okay, so a little bit of my story. I was a fourth-year medical student in 1989, and I had an opportunity to go to Guatemala with a pediatrician and a group. We just went around to communities doing some general health care, and I just remembered near the end of the time talking to the pediatrician who's seated here on the left, and talking about specialties, and he said, it's good to have primary care, but if you can have a surgical subspecialty too, it'd really be helpful in the mission field. And that just helped confirm with other people's input to my decision to go into ophthalmology. And so I did my residency training at Texas Tech Health Science Center, Department of Ophthalmology. This is our old building, and you'll see our new one soon. After finishing, I went into private practice for a while, and during that time I did make a trip back to Guatemala, this time as an ophthalmologist, seeing many children in an orphanage. And that was a good experience. And after that, decided to do more subspecialty training, and I did my fellowship in neuro-ophthalmology and ocular plastics at the Albany Medical Center in New York. After that, I returned to private practice for another 4 years in the Macon, Georgia area. And that was a great time of preparation for me to get ready for academics. In the year 2000, I was called by David McCartney. I think some of you know him. He's the chairman of our department at Texas Tech, saying, we lost our neuroplastics guy. Can you come? It was just at the time that I was looking, and it seemed like God's call to return to my old department and be on the faculty. And so I've been there ever since the year 2000. Here are just some of our faculty pictured here. David's not in the picture. He's always busy helping and working for us, so he's rarely there for pictures. During these last 13 years with the department, I've had opportunities. The first one was working among the Tarahumara Indians in the Sierra Madre of Chihuahua. And a wonderful gentleman, retired missionary, Dick Courtney, shown here on the upper left, just inspired me to go and help with the mission down there. And so I've gone multiple times down there to help with the eye and medical clinics when they reach out to these poor people. And we're supporting missionaries there. We hold these clinics, but the long-term goal is to support the missionaries in their work of building churches in this area. I've been able to take my children and let them experience missions, and it's been a wonderful opportunity. And so this form of missions I continue to do, and I support of going and working, in the remote areas, providing eye care. But I want to tell you how directions changed for us a little bit. Good friends of ours, John and Charlotte Gazelle, have been long-term missionaries. We were friends of ours in Lubbock for years, and he helped translate the Bible in Quechua in Ecuador for years, but came back for more training, and he got involved in an organization called International Institute for Christian Studies, which is now also called Global Scholars. And they have this vision of sending Christian professors throughout the world in all disciplines to secular universities and institutions to be a light for the Lord there. And And so I was invited to attend one of their meetings, and I believe it was 2007. We attended one of their first meetings in Kansas City and learned about the vision that this organization has. And the main focus was that of what institution in the world has the most impact on shaping our culture? Well, if you think about it, it's the university. For good or for evil, the university probably has the largest impact on shaping our culture. Now, of course, we would want to say the church. And the church is a wonderful, God-blessed institution through which we must work. But if we want to get into the marketplace of ideas in our culture, the university is that place. Lives are shaped in the university classrooms. And if we want to reach the next generation, then we must reach them when they are most reachable, as young students and professors are uniquely qualified to teach them. You can go as a traditional missionary to a country, but many times you have trouble with visas, trouble being accepted by the government. But when you go in saying, I want to come and teach my specialty to you in your country, you're often welcomed with open arms. Think about C.S. Lewis for a minute. C.S. Lewis, when he came to the Lord, when he was converted, he could have gone into, quote, full-time Christian ministry, but instead, he stayed within the university setting, did his writing and thinking there. And of course, you know the impact that he has had by staying within the university. This idea of compartmentalization is a wrong idea that many of us in America and other parts of the world have, that we think we have our secular, quote, professional life and we have our sacred or Christian life. But that is a false dichotomy. Luther even spoke about this, that no matter what you do, from the most menial job to the highest profession, that can be sacred work in God's sight. And so there is none of this false dichotomy. And these concepts really were driven home to me. And so I had, after 7 years at the university, a sabbatical opportunity, which few clinicians take advantage of in the university, very few. But Judy and I went and interviewed with the leadership at this organization, the International Institute of Christian Studies, and were accepted by them. So we started looking for a possible place for service for that sabbatical year. I remember getting an email from the president early that year saying, would you be interested in Southeast Asia? We were kind of thinking more like Eastern Europe. But we said, sure, we'll think about it. And then in March of 2009 came that Cambodian, quote, call. It was actually in the form of an email practically pleading, saying, there is nobody in your specialty in the whole country of Cambodia. Would you consider going to work there? Well, our family wasn't overly excited about the thought. We looked at Phnom Penh, and out of 150 cities, it was listed 149th as far as, a nice place to go visit. We thought, well, but nobody objected. I took an exploratory trip. I wanted to check it out for myself. I got invited to speak there for a week. And this is just a picture at the end of my time there, standing with the resident doctors outside of their, this is the National Eye Hospital with those iron gated doors there, okay? And these young men and one young woman there stood around me, and I said, I'm going to be coming back in 3 months. I don't think they believed me. But there was hope in their eyes. There's one young man here in particular who I know was wanting me to come back. But there were a lot of obstacles to doing this. Taking a sabbatical year meant raising support, getting physical exams and immunizations. We had family members with medical issues, including one of our daughters. Arranging the sabbatical year with a university that wasn't sympathetic to what I was doing. Presentations to my church and my department, arranging housing in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, or airline tickets for 6. It was formidable. And yet, the Lord, resting in Him, He worked us through all these things. This is us with our orientation group at 2009. I'm so grateful for the training that we received from this organization to help us prepare for this. They basically train you and send you out. It's not like we are an employee of theirs or anything. This is really independent missions that you go on. They are just there to support you, back you up, even pastoral staff, which I so appreciated. So in October of 2009, our family went in 2 groups. We loaded up, flew China Airlines through Taiwan to Phnom Penh, landed there. A few weeks later, my wife arrived as well with our other daughters. My son stayed behind going to college, kind of held down the fort at home, but did come at Christmas breaks, and the whole family was there in Southeast Asia. Just a picture from Phnom Penh to give you just a sense of kind of what it's like. This is a marketplace, people everywhere, hot and humid, a culture 180 degrees different than ours. Just if we hadn't heard some of the things in our training, it would have been almost insurmountable just to adapt to something like this. But the Lord was so faithful. Let me just tell you a little bit about his provision. He provided for us a home. He provided a Cambodian family to live with us and help us through some of the obstacles. Fellow missionaries like Angela here on the left. He provided a church fellowship with people from 30 different countries worshiping together in English, which was nice. A home that a missionary there wanted to sublet to us because it was just too big for her. And even transportation in a city where you just couldn't even walk around. The traffic was so terrible. And yet we found this tuk-tuk driver. This is a tuk-tuk on the bottom here, a motorcycle-driven carriage. And he took us around and was faithful to our needs. Let me just mention for you in a minute about Cambodia's medical situation. Some of you who know your history knew the Khmer Rouge decimated Cambodia in the late 70s. 2 million people died. Years of civil war until 2000. In 1979, there were 39 doctors left in the entire country, maybe one ophthalmologist. At present now, there are 70, quote, eye doctors. Not all of them are fully trained ophthalmologists. And there are really no subspecialties. Some people have got a little training in certain things like cornea or something, but very little in that way. Healthcare expenditures, very little. Infant and child mortality, much higher than acceptable. Literacy, 74%. Just some examples at the bottom of things I saw. I never saw a case of cryptophthalmos till I went there. Too many children with tumors, retinoblastoma, orbital tumors. Heart-wrenching. Trauma was acid burns. So, this is the National Eye Hospital. This is the front door of the National Eye Hospital where I took that picture with those kids. Those young residents, what do I mean kids? This is inside, one clinic area, 4 slit lamps. This is it, the National Eye Hospital. This is the inpatient ward, totally open air, beds all over. It was a good facility. I mean, it was hard doing rounds in there. You were just sweating bullets. But it was a good experience. This is the operating room on the 2nd floor. Pretty good facility when the air conditioning was running. So after getting there and getting our feet wet, they didn't really know what to do with me a whole lot. So I really just needed to carve my own niche. And so I began teaching in the clinic, the OR, and in the classroom. And I had opportunities to speak at the Cambodia Ophthalmology Society, a fledgling organization just for the last few years, and spoke both at their December and June meetings. In fact, I was just back there this last month speaking at their 2013 meeting. The Lord was so faithful. In addition to teaching residents and students at the clinic, one of the principles of our organization was to, over time, start inviting them to your home. Of course, the main goal, and they stressed it over and over again, was go do your job and do it with excellence. Then, as you build credibility, and start inviting people to your home. And by the end of the time we were there, the resident doctors were coming over almost every weekend. Here's a picture of some of them around a table laden with Cambodian fruits. But just wonderful experiences. We got to, before the end, show them the Jesus movie in Khmer, their native language. I mean, it's just wonderful opportunities that only come over time with credibility and with relationship. And if that wasn't enough, I was sitting in the hospital office that spring of 2010, and there was a young man sitting at a table who was an administrator from Vietnam. And he said, we don't have your specialty down in South Vietnam at our eye hospital. And he said, would you be willing to come down there and teach? So I didn't know what was going to come of this. He gave me an email address to send my CV. Within a few weeks, I had an invitation from the hospital director to come down and lecture for a week in Ho Chi Minh City, a city of 8 million in South Vietnam. So here are just some pictures from that week there. Little did I know I was building relationships there that have continued to this day. This is just a picture before the end of the sabbatical year. It was at the June meeting of the CO. This is my second COS meeting this year, by the way. I was at the Cambodian Ophthalmology Society meeting last month, and now I'm with you. So anyway, this is from June 2010, and I can't help but look at this picture without emotion, just looking at these young faces and these doctors and the relationships I've built with them, and I get to see them as they get out and they struggle as they begin to practice. And I could go on and on. I would love to take time to really go into depth about what I've done, and maybe there'll be an evening tonight or tomorrow night where I could go over in detail what we did in Southeast Asia. I've just begun to touch on the blessings the Lord gave us in friends and Cambodian family and spending Christmas in another country. What a blessing for my children to see, that's not just all what we experience in America here. My girls getting to work at a children's home, orphanage with these kids and wanting to return again and again. I just got back with one of my daughters who worked at this children's home while I was speaking at these meetings. It was just such a blessing. I can't begin to tell you all of the benefits to my family from this time. And we've gone back several times. I've been back every calendar year since. Just this last 2 years, I got to see this young man come to the Lord and begin the process of discipleship. Believe me, you're coming from such a long way from Buddhism and that culture, ancestor worship. It's such a long journey. I just got back from speaking at a 10th anniversary neuro-ophthalmology meeting in Ho Chi Minh City at their eye hospital. I'd love to tell you more about that. Just a great experience. And it came from this. I thought after I came back, why not the rest of the year be doing something about this? I feel like I have a mission at my department as well. I cannot abandon that. Some professors, of course, have gone full-time for the rest of their lives, but I thought, why not bring some of these young doctors here, those who are interested in neuro-ophthalmology and ocular plastics? And through, the help of my chairman and our department, even providing some funding, we brought Dr. Lin in February of 2012, and here she is in the operating room and with our family. She lived with us during those 3 months, bonded with my girls. We have a wonderful relationship with her. I can't believe that we could not have ever met her. And then another young man, Dr. Hin, shown here on the right, along with several Vietnamese friends over to our house one night for dinner. These are the two doctors instrumental in setting up the meeting for me. I want to leave time for questions, or we can do it later, but let me just summarize real quickly. Teaching in an international setting has many benefits. There are many institutions and governments that are looking for professionals. And in most cases, wherever you go, even the most different culture I can think of, like Cambodia, you teach in English. Because that is the language of education and business in this world. People are hungry to learn English, and young professionals like these doctors have to know it. They want you to improve their skills, but they already have them, and you can teach in English. The opportunities are vast. There is so much need out there. All you have to do is just start looking, and you will be amazed at the opportunities. And then after you start, what a wide diversity of experiences and adventures the Lord might have for you. In my case, this whole opportunity in Vietnam was unexpected. Other professors that I've worked with in this organization have talked about opportunities to even go before governments and head up projects for governments. When you make yourself available in these situations, the Lord opens up opportunities that you might not imagine. So, are you near retirement? Do you have an opportunity for sabbatical? Do you feel a call to do something radical? Let me suggest this to you. I'm not here to recruit for an organization. I'll mention a couple that can help you in this process if you want to do it, but I just like the organic nature of this type of ministry. Everyone who does it is something different, and the Lord uses it differently in many ways. Here are just some of the values that I want to stress. To bring glory to God in all situations. View every issue from the perspective of the Lordship of Christ. That is so important. That's what I was trying to communicate earlier, that everything, your secular, your religious life, everything is under the Lordship of Christ. It's not a dichotomy. to respect the culture of the host country and its citizens, and to teach and perform every task with excellence. That is so important too. You're not going as some undercover missionary. Oh, I'm getting in to do my job, but really then I'm going to go out and preach on the streets. No, you're going in with a clear conscience to do what you said to do and let the Lord work through you. And to do that, you have to lead a consistent life before Him of worship, prayer, and Bible study, and love others, and welcome them into your home. So let me just leave you with this scripture. Therefore, since through God's mercy we have this ministry, we do not lose heart. Rather, we have renounced secret and shameful ways. We do not use deception, nor do we distort the word of God. On the contrary, by setting forth the truth plainly, we commend ourselves to everyone's conscience in the sight of God. And to me, it's been so refreshing to just go knowing the Lord will use it if we just go and do our job with excellence. Just a quick picture of my family. We are new grandparents as of a couple months ago. Our first granddaughter there, Callie, Grace Freemann. And here's our first family picture all together. I thank you. And I hope there might be a time when I'd be more than happy to share more of these experiences with you. If we have time one of these evenings, maybe.